Hi, in this video I would like to show you the basics of the overlay crochet. Overlay crochet is called like this because basically we are using two layers of crochet at the same time. So we are doing the background with the single crochets mostly, or also you can do the doubles depending on how you have it in the written instructions. So you make the background and then you also add the overlaid stitches on top of this background. So you can see that if we look at the back side, it's just plain crochet fabric, no holes, no chain spaces. And then on top we also have this texture with the overlaid stitches. Here we have the clusters, here we have the doubles, the overlay doubles, here we have the overlaid trebles. If we have a look at this motif, again you can see that it's double layered. So we have a background, and on top of the background we add this long stitches, the clusters, and front post doubles, front post trebles, front post doubles two together. So you see, if I pull it a little bit, you will see that on the back we have this plain background, and those overlaid stitches, as I call them in the instructions, they overlay on top. So that's the main idea of the overlay crochet, and also why it has a name like this. So how can we make the background and add these stitches on top at the same time? The overlay crochet projects are worked in rounds or rows, and we do both layers at the same time. It means that the background is most often worked in the back loop only. For example, here you can see this last round is worked in the back loops, and on front we have these front loops left. Here as well you can see this front loop. Here you can see. Here is a front loop left. So when we work the background in the back loops only, we have these front loops, and on next rounds we can add these long stitches into the front loops from the previous rounds. For example, if we want to make this long stitch in this blue round, we can see that we had this front loop left. So we just anchor this long stitch into the front loop. So the idea is to work the background also here. You can see that here front loops left. So if I would make the long stitch, for example, in blue color on that round, I would insert the hook like this from bottom up, and I would anchor the long stitch here. So that's the main idea of the overlay crochet and of how two layers are built at the same time. And now I will explain you how to crochet in back loops, how to add these long stitches into the front loops, and also I will explain you how to do the needle join. I will explain the basics of the overlay crochet on the example of this small project, but you will apply the same ideas to all the next projects you would do in overlay crochet. So first we start with yarn in the first color. You will see it in the instructions, and if you work in the round, you will start with a so-called magic or adjustable ring. I'm doing it in a very simple and easy way. Just take the yarn, make a loop like this, insert the hook through the loop, grab the yarn, pull through, make chain one. And the instructions for this motif, again I'm doing this one, but of course you will have to look into the instructions for your own project. I need to make 8 single crochets into this ring. So I made chain 1 and it does not count as a stitch here, so I will do 8 single crochet, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. Here is the first round. Just pull the magic loop, and here how it looks after round 1. Round 2 is done into the back loops only, so we don't join this first round, and we just start to go around right away into the first stitch. So you can see that we have 8 stitches here, so please count again, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and here is the first one. If you're not sure how to find the first one, it's always useful to use a stitch marker to put into the first stitch, then you will be sure 100% where exactly it is. So we will place 2 stitches into each one of the round 1, and we will work in the back loops. Let's find the back loop, because that's very important, so that you understand where is the front loop and where is the back loop, because most stitches of the background will be done into the back loops only. So if you look from the above at the stitch, you will see this V on top. You see this, here is the V and here is the V, and this V has 2 loops, the front loop here and the back loop here. So we will work into the back loops only, so you will insert the hook like this. And we need to place 2 stitches single crochet into each stitch around. So insert the hook, don't do any chains, insert the hook here and do 2 single crochets into the back loop. And again, it's really helpful, I don't have a stitch marker at hand, but you can also mark this first stitch with a piece of yarn so that you know exactly where is this first stitch. Because on the next step you will join this round, and then it will be really helpful to see where is the first one and where is the next one. So we made 2 stitches, and now we will just go around and make 2 single crochets in each stitch around. Working into the back loops, again, I really would like you to pay attention to this, because if you work through both loops, you will not have these front loops. You see that when we work in the back loops, we have these front loops here, and they are necessary for placing the overlaid stitches from the next rounds. So we work in each stitch around, and you should have 16 stitches after this round. You see, I came to this first stitch. It's really helpful that I marked it, so I just stopped in front of it, and I should have 16. So I will count now. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16. I am right, and now the instructions ask me to needle join into the second single crochet of the round, and I will explain you why it's important. Needle join is called like this because normally you would use a needle, yarn needle, to close the round, like normal needle with big hole, so that your yarn can go through it. But I find it a little bit time consuming to use the needle for each round, so I use the hook instead, but I still call this join a needle join because it's just ordinary name of this join. It's also called an invisible join. Why is it important to use the needle join in the overlay crochet? Usually you would join the round with a slip stitch. That's how most of the patterns are written, and I'm doing that in some of mine as well. But if I want a very, very neat look of the project, especially in the overlay crochet, I would not use the slip stitch. Slip stitch, I will explain you. Slip stitch, if you join the round, for example, I need to join it into the back loop. If you join with a slip stitch and cut the yarn later, you create an extra loop here and also a step here.
A step is not really a problem because you can easily hide it on the next round. But this extra loop, extra front loop, is a problem because on the next rounds, when you will build the overlaid stitches, you need exact number of front loops on the previous rounds. For example, on this round, this is round 2 here, we need 16 loops. So if you have this join with a slip stitch, you will have an extra loop here, and then it will be confusing on the next round, and it will not look symmetrical also, and also you will have these steps. So if you use the needle join, then the wrong side, it will be super neat. You will not see any joins, they will be invisible. So if you want to make, for example, a project that you will be accessible from both sides, so you would look at it from the wrong side and from the right side, I really would like to encourage you to learn how to do the needle join. It's very, very easy. I will explain you right now. But if you use the needle join, then you have correct number of the front loops on the round, and that's very important for the overlay crochet. And also you have no steps, and the join is completely invisible. So I will just unravel this slip stitch join, and we'll show you how to join with the needle join. So after you completed all the stitches, you just need to pull yarn a little bit up, leaving a long enough tail for safe weaving. I think this is enough for my small project. You just cut the yarn here. So you don't do anything, you just pull this loop and cut the yarn. And then remove this tail from the ball. And now you are ready to needle join. So round 2 is asking you to do the needle join into the second stitch of the round. On some rounds you will be asked to do it into the first one. So please read instructions carefully for the join so that you do it in the correct stitch. So this is our first stitch. I marked it with the yarn, and this one is the next one. So I will needle join, but using a hook, in this one. So how you do the join? At first you insert the hook from back to front in the indicated stitch onto both loops. You take this yarn tail and pull through. Don't pull it tight. You don't need to close this, but you need to build extra 2 loops, extra V on top of this stitch. So basically you will be replacing with these loops of the stitches from the previous round. So it should be relaxed so that you can see that you had the previous V, this is the one you are building now, and that's the next V. So this is how it should look. The length of this thread should be approximately the same as the length of the previous and the next stitches on the same round. Now you insert the hook from back to front under the back loop only of the last stitch of the round. You grab this yarn and pull back. And here is how it looks. So you see that on top you can see those V's. They are all the same. Here is the last stitch. That was the first stitch, and you build 2 loops on top. And that's the second one from the previous round. This is how the needle join works. If you remove this yarn and look from the front, you will not recognize at all where the join was. So that's how the needle join is done, and that's why it is invisible, because you replace the stitch from the previous round with the new 2 loops on hook. Here we joined in the second stitch, but in the next videos here I will explain you also how to do it into the first stitch. Round 3 on the project I'm working asks me actually to use yarn C2, so it's another color, and I should join it in the second stitch of any increase into the back loop. So in Overlay Crochet, every round will tell you exactly where the yarn of another shade must be attached. And that's very, very important, because if you attach it in a different spot, then your overlaid pattern will not be built in the way as it must be built. So you really have to find this right stitch where to attach the yarn, and usually in the button you will see a progress picture, the first one for the round, which explains you where to put the yarn for the next round. So here we need to find the increase. It is those 2 stitches made in 1 stitch. For example, here I can see 2 stitches worked in 1 stitch. So this one is an increase, and I should attach the yarn into the second stitch of the increase through the back loop. Attach yarn just by pulling through the loop. That's how it's attached. And now you will see 2 different options of doing the very start of the round. On this round, I need to chain 1, and that will not count as a stitch, and the first stitch will go into the same stitch as join. So that's one option, and another option I will explain you on the next rounds. So here we chain 1, it's not a stitch, and then we begin in the same stitch as join and make 1 single crochet in 1 stitch and 2 single crochets in the next stitch. At the same time, you can weave in this yarn tail as you go. So while doing the stitches, you can put this yarn tail close to the top of the previous round, insert the hook and work the first stitch into the same stitch as join, as the instructions are asking you to do, and 2 stitches into the next one. And when you insert the hook into this back loop and also under this tail from joining, so that you crochet over this tail and hide it in that way, so that you don't need to do extra weaving afterwards. So you will basically weave in as you go. So you make 1 single crochet in next stitch, 2 single crochets in next stitch, and when you come to this needle join, you see here we have this needle join, you can also grab this tail again also, so you will have 2 tails on top, and you can crochet over both tails at the same time. 2 stitches in next. So you see we crochet over 2 tails, 1 stitch in next, 2 stitches in next, and continue around. 1 stitch in next, 2 stitches in. Of course, this kind of weaving in is not super safe, so but it will help you at least to start the weaving. And then, for example, you can leave long enough tail so that you can afterwards use the needle and just make a few stitches back and forth in the same color, so that you secure it and sure that it will not go out after using the project. So we are continue doing 1 stitch and 2 stitches into the next. I will weave my tails as you go until the end, because I'm doing just small ornament which will not be washed very often and it will not be used hard. So I think this kind of weaving is okay. So we came to the beginning of the round, and now we need to join with a slip stitch this time into the first one and insert the hook through both loops. So here is another kind of join which can appear sometimes in my patterns overlaid. Mostly it is when you use one color for 2 rounds, so that you don't cut the yarn after 1 round and then rejoin the same shade for another one. So then the first round is joined with a slip stitch, and you will insert the hook through the both loops and make a slip stitch. That's sometimes can also happen in my patterns, so that you join with a slip stitch and not a needle join. You see that I have woven these 2 tails, so I just clip it close to the stitch, and I don't really need to weave in anything extra. And you can see that those first 2 rounds look very neat. The third one is as well. But again, this way of weaving is not good for the blankets or the project that we will use very often, because those short ends can go out. So I would I recommend you to start weaving the tail like this, then leave long enough tail and use a needle to weave it in the regular way. Anyway, we are done with round 3 and I will go to round 4 now. On round 4 we stay with the same color, chain 1, it's not a stitch again, and we will have to work this round through both loops, beginning into the same stitches join and work 2 single crochets and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So start with the same stitches join, work 2 stitches and 2 stitches into the next. Again 2 stitches and 2 stitches into the next, and repeat it around. At the end of the every round you will see the stitch count, so please check your stitch count after every round to be sure that you are doing it right. And I will see you here. So here you will go around, stop here, and then we will do the needle join again. The end of the round 4, so I stopped after I did all the repeats. You can see that we still have this loop, but that's not the actual stitch, it's a slip stitch from the join from the previous round. That's why the slip stitch join is not used often in the overlay crochet, just because it has these extra loops and it can be confusing if it's a stitch or a slip stitch. So the slip stitch is used in some of the rounds, but not often. So, and now we will make the needle join. Again, pull the loop, cut yarn, remove the working yarn and make a needle join into the second stitch. Again, here is the first one, here is the second. So we just insert the hook under both loops through the second stitch. Grab this tail, pull through. Don't pull it tight, you just need to replace this first stitch. Insert the hook into the back loop of the last stitch and pull through. So we basically build this V on top of the slip stitch and also the first stitch in our case. That is how we do the needle join into the second stitch. And that was round 4. Round 5 is done with new color again, and we need to attach yarn into the first stitch of any increase of the previous round. So again, find this increase. Here is any increase. You don't really have to be close to this join. Quite the opposite. I would recommend to join in another part, because if you attach yarn close to the needle join can easily loosen up. So just find any increase, for example here, and insert, attach the yarn to the first stitch. So I will go here, for example, into the back loop, just leave long enough tail for weaving and pull yarn up. Round 5 is again done in the same color as the next round, so that's why we will start with the chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and begin into the same stitches join into the back loops. So we'll work 3 single crochets into the back loops, and again you can weave this tail as you go. 3 single crochets and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So very similar as we did on the previous rounds, but we will work in the back loops on this round. Again, 3 single crochets and 2 single crochets into the next stitch, and repeat it around until we come to the beginning. And again we will join with the slip stitch, but that will be probably the last round that will be joined with the slip stitch on this project. So round 5, I came around, I wove these tails as I went, both tails. I can clip them and join with a slip stitch, in the back loop of the first stitch. So please also read the instructions for if you need to insert the hook through both loops or only in the back loop. And round 6 is very interesting, because on this round we will start to add the overlaid stitches in the front loops of this round. So again, we start with chain 1, which is not a stitch, And please read the note before you go to round 6. So it says that we work all these single crochets into the back loops. That's understandable. And then work the first double crochet of this round in a stitch of round 4 directly below. We start with 2 single crochets. First goes into the same stitch as join. And now we need to make a double crochet, yes, into the stitch directly below the next stitch. So here is the stitch of round 4 directly below. So our double crochet will go here. So we made 2 single crochets, yarn over, insert the hook into this front loop from bottom up, and complete the regular double crochet. Here is our overlaid stitch. Now the instructions say that you have to skip 1 stitch on round 5. So you should grab your work forward. You can see that this stitch of round 5 is occupied, and that's the first free one. So you skip that one and you work the next single crochet into this stitch. And one more. So you have to work 2 single crochets. Then you skip 1 stitch on the round 4 and work the double crochet into the next stitch here. So you yarn over, insert the hook into this front loop from bottom up, and complete the double crochet. And then you skip no stitches on round 5. That's another thing about overlay crochet, that when you build these long stitches, you should usually skip the stitches of the previous round, which are hidden by this long stitch. But sometimes you don't skip a stitch, for example, how we will do here. So when you build this double, you grab it forward and you see that this stitch, it was occupied already, and here is the next free one. And because we don't skip any stitches on round 5, we will go exactly into this first free one. So we will go here and repeat the whole thing all over again. So make 2 single crochets, skip the stitch on round 4, work the double crochet into the next front loop, skip 1 stitch. Here on round 5, work 2 singles on round 5. Skip this stitch on round 4, work the double crochet into the next stitch of round 4, and skip no stitches on round 5, and again make 2 singles, double, 2 singles, double, and skip 1 stitch behind every other double. Why will you skip or not skip this stitches? If we skip 1 stitch of the previous round behind every double, it means that we will be on this round 6, we will have exactly the same number of stitches as we had on the previous round. But we are doing our project in the rounds. It means that we need increases on every round almost. Some rounds don't have any increases, but most of them have increases. So if you look at the stitch count, you can see that on round 5 we had 40 stitches, and on round 6 we should have 48. But how we have those increases if we don't really increase? Because normally you would increase by doing 2 single crochets into the same stitch, right? It's normal way of the increasing. But in overlay crochet you can also increase by working the overlaid stitch and skipping no stitches of the previous round. So it means that you build extra stitch here on the next round, but you skip no stitches on the previous round. So that's a natural increase without actually doing an increase. Hope I explained it easily to understand. So you just work this, repeat 2 singles, double, 2 singles, double around until you come here, and then you will do the needle join again. Round 7 is done with a new color again, and this round will show you how to do the beginning of most rounds in the overlay and how to needle join into the first stitch. First, you should read a note again where to place to attach the yarn. That's very important, as you remember. So we need to attach yarn in a stitch before any double. So we just find any double, do it approximately on the opposite side of the needle joint so that you have enough space for weaving, and attach yarn into the back loop. The instructions say to do it into the back loop. Attach new yarn into the first stitch before any double. We attach yarn just by pulling through the stitch. And now you need to work this round into the back loops. Again, let's have a look at the stitches. Here is the front loop of the stitch, this V on top. Here is the front loop, here is the back. We will work in the back loop only. And if you look at the beginning of the instructions, you will see 6 single crochets, and then in the brackets you see the note. First single crochet of the round will be chain 1. What does it mean? It means that when you start the round and you should make 6 single crochets, the first very stitch of the round will be chain 1. So you chain 1, count it as the first stitch, and then you need to work 5 more. So you will have 6 in total. 1, 2, 3, and as you do the stitches, you can weave this end in, inserting the hook into the back loop and also under this tail. How many stitches I have? 1. This is the chain 1. It counts 1 stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you have 6 single crochets. And then you need to make a treble into the front loop of the stitch of round 4. Here is round 7, so that it's 6, 5, 4. Here is round 4. So we see this skipped stitch on round 4, the front loop, 3. So we need to make a treble crochet into this front loop. Yarn over twice, insert the hook into the stitch from bottom up, and complete the regular treble crochet. And make sure this treble crochet is done to the height of the working round. So it should not be tight. I will explain you. If you, for example, work it very tight, I will try to do it as tight as I can. You see, I made it tight. So that's the height of the current round, and then this treble is very tight, so it's pulling down your current round. But to prevent this, work those overlay stitches to the height of the working round, so that make them a little bit longer so that they are just the perfect height. Otherwise you would have the bumps on this round and it would not be a round shape. So you made a treble, and now you should skip no stitches on round 6 behind this treble. So pull your work forward, see that this stitch is occupied. That's the first one, so we will go into this stitch and continue with this repeat. So again, you will make 6 single crochets. Now you will make the single crochet and not a chain anymore, because chain is only replacing the first stitch of the round. So here you do the regular stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, you can weave your tail as you go by working under it. So you work around this tail, I would say. So again, we need to make a treble crochet into this skipped stitch from round 4. So yarn over twice, insert the hook from bottom up, complete the regular treble to the height of the current round, and skip no stitches here, and again 6 stitches on the previous round. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Here's how it's done. So you always stop in the first one of 2. You make a treble here, you skip no stitches, so you insert the hook into the next one and again make 6, and so on. So do it around as many times as written in the pattern, 8 times in total. So we have 8 trebles and 8 group of 6 single crochets, and see you here, and I will explain you how to do the needle join. That's the end of round 7. I made the last rebel, and then I need to needle join into the first stitch of the round. Pull the yarn up, leaving enough long enough tail for safe weaving, and you will join into the first stitch of the round. So you see that first stitch after chain 1, because basically this chain 1, it was the first stitch, but we should join into the first stitch after chain 1. So we will needle join into this first stitch. Insert the hook from back to front under the stitch, grab this yarn tail, don't pull it tight, you should have the same lengths as you had on the previous stitches. Go through the last one into the back loop, grab the yarn and pull through. So you can see that that was chain 1. Do you remember? We made the first stitch, it was chain 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But because we built this V on top of this first stitch, it looks exactly the same as all the previous single crochets of the round. So the join is completely invisible. That's the magic of the needle join. And because I wove the tails as I went, I can just clip them, and you can see that the back and the front are very neat. That was round 7. So now, after you understood the logics of the needle join and doing the first stitch and working into the back loops, then all the next rounds should be easy, and I also hope that the next projects will be easy as well. So we need new yarn for round 8. It's for yarn C1, the same as we used for the very start, and we need to attach yarn into the 4th stitch of any group of 6. So you remember that we made these 2 trebles and 6 stitches between them, so we need to attach yarn into the 4th. Again, I prefer to do it on the opposite side of the needle join, so I will join here 1, 2, 3, 4 into the back loop, just pull it through, and the instructions say to make 7 single crochets, and the first stitch will be a chain. So again, you make chain 1, which counts as the first stitch, and you do 6 more into the back loops, and you can weave the tail at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we need to make treble 4 together into the front loop of the stitch of the round 5, visible between 2 doubles of round 6. So where is our round 5? Here is round 8. So it's 7, 6, 5. Here is round 5. We see these 2 doubles of round 6, and we have these 2 front loops from round 5. So you can work the treble 4 together in any of these 2 loops. That does not matter. So you yarn over twice, insert the hook. For example, I will do into the second one, insert the hook from bottom up, complete the first leg. You have still 2 loops in the hook, yarn over twice. Second leg will go into the same stitch, yarn over twice. Third leg, you have 4 stitches, loops on the hook, and the last leg goes into the same stitch. 5 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all those loops. Here is how we do the treble 4 together. Now skip no stitches behind it. We know that it will be an increase. So you see that this stitch is occupied. This is the first free one, so you will go into this one and just do the repeat all over again. So you make 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again you complete the treble 4 together into this stitch of round 5, skip no stitches on the previous round, and continue around with the same stitch pattern. And when you come to the beginning, the last treble 4 together, it will go here, so you will make it here, and then you will needle join as we did on all the previous round into the first stitch here. So you will build this V loop above this chain, and the round will be joined invisibly again. Just a small note about round 9. I would like to draw your attention that the repeat, it starts with 4 single crochets, then you do an increase, and then you do 3 more. So this means that you will repeat this whole repeat from the start to end. So you will work 4 stitches, increase, 3 stitches, and then again you will make 4 stitches, increase, 3. So basically you will have 7, 3 plus 4 between every increase. When you see these stitches after the increase in the end of the round, it's very easy to lose them, because naturally you would want to make 4 stitches, increase, 4 increase, 4 increase, but here you have 4 increase, 3, and then you again make 4 increase, 3. I would like to draw your attention to this, because you will have this not regular repeats on a lot of rounds in overlay crochet. It's done like this because it's easier to attach the yarn into one of the understandable stitches. For example, here we have this cluster, so it's very easy to find a cluster and to attach yarn here, but increase is made in between these 2 clusters. So if you attach yarn here, then naturally you have to make 4 stitches, then increase, and 3 more, and then again you start in the cluster. So please read the repeats carefully from the beginning to the end, and make every repeat in full from first stitch to the last stitch. So here is the here is 1 repeat. So it's 4 stitches, increase, 3 stitches, and again you have the next repeat. It's 4 stitches, increase, and 3. And when you come to the first stitch, first chain, you just make a needle join in this first stitch, as we did it on the previous round. On round 9, we will make the spikes. And because it's quite difficult to explain the spikes in the words, and even with the progress pictures in the pattern, I thought I would record this short tutorial to show you how to do the spikes. So we should attach yarn in the second stitch of any increase. I switched the shades on the previous rounds and this one because I thought that in the video it would be easier to show you the spikes with light color on the dark background. So we need to find the increase. Again, do it on the opposite side of the needle joint. For example, here is the increase, I see it, and I should attach yarn in the second stitch of the increase through the back loop. So I insert it here, grab the yarn and pull through the stitch. That's how it's joined. Now we need to make one spike 4 times and then 1 more single crochet. Again, because we start with 1 stitch, and you see in the brackets, first stitch of the round will be chain 1. So we chain 1 and count it as the first stitch. And now we need to make a spike. A spike is very similar as a single crochet, but you will not go through the top of the stitch in back loop or both loops, but you will go here just into the same stitch where this stitch was made. So you will not go on top of stitch, but into the stitch of the previous round, actually, but where this next stitch was made. So you insert the hook through your work, grab the yarn on the back, pull it up to the height of the working round, so this loop will be a little bit higher, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So that's a single crochet, but it's done 2 rounds below into the stitch where the stitch of the previous round was made. Here is the first spike. Now we need to make the single crochet into the next stitch, and because we kind of wrap this stitch of the previous round with this spike, so it's naturally skipped. So we work into the next stitch here. And again, we should repeat 1 single crochet and spike stitch again. Go 2 rounds below. Grab it up to the height of the previous round and pull through 2 loops. Single crochet, again, I insert the hook also under this tail to weave it as I go, and spike stitch into the next one. We have 3 singles, 3 spikes, and we need 1 more. So single crochet and spike stitch into the next stitch. So we are at the end of the repeat, but we also need 1 more single crochet here, and that will be the end of 1 repeat. You see that these V's, so they are just the same, but we have this small V and large V, and this large V is a spike stitch. And you will repeat this around. So again, we start with 1 single crochet and a spike, and repeat it 4 times in total. The first time, single crochet and spike. Second, single crochet and spike into the next stitch. Third one, and single crochet into the next stitch and spike into the next stitch. Spikes are always done into the next stitch, so don't insert the hook into the same stitch where you worked, but into the next one. Find the next one where it was made and insert the hook there. Next one, and complete the spike stitch and single crochet into the next stitch. That's again another repeat. So please do it around, and again, as on previous round 9, you will see that you have the repeat. It starts with 1 single crochet and ends with another one. So in some spots you will have 2 single crochets close to each other. So the repeat is single spike, single spike, single spike, single spike, and single, and then again you start with single spike, single. So you have this 2 stitches. So please again read the instructions carefully from the beginning to the end of the repeat and make the entire repeat. So don't really lose this another single crochet here, because if you miss one of those, you will not do this symmetrically all around. So the stitch count, it will be off and you will be just lost. So please count. We explained how to attach the overlaid stitches into the front loops, but sometimes you will be asked to do the front posts around the front post from some rounds below. That's another thing I would like to show you. Instructions ask you to make a front post double treble around the treble stitch from 1, 2, 3, from 3 rounds below. So it means that you yarn over 3 times and insert the hook below this post and make the front post double treble like this. Again, to the height of the working round, because if you make, for example, if you make a treble here, you will see that it will pull a lot. You see, it pulls a lot. So it's not the right way of doing the overlay stitch. So you really need here the front post double treble instead of the treble. And very often in the instructions, if you, for example, see that I mention the front post treble here, but you feel like your treble is too tight, please feel free always to replace the short stitches with the longer ones. And in the opposite way, if your gauge is very loose, if you tend to loosen up the stitches, and for example, if you feel like if you make a front post double treble here, for example, I will do it in a little looser way. You see, it's too long. So if I do the single crochet into the next stitch, it will be loopy here. So then you would need to make the front post treble instead. So please do as written in the instructions. Try to adjust your gauge so that your stitches are always made up to the height of the current round. But if your style is looser or tighter, you can always replace them. Just make sure that they look neat and that they are to the height of the current round. That's how you attach the overlaid stitches if you're asked to do it around a post.